Hi, I'm Irving. Let's talk about Irwin. The crew is out scouring the area for food, and somehow Fitzhugh has gotten separated from the others. He's at a dock watching a fisherman sort his catch, and our fisherman dropped something. That shrimp is 4 times as big as he is, which means with a decent refrigerator they can probably eat on it for a couple of weeks. It'll be even easier to preserve since it's already cooked.
I heard the fishermen talk. They said it was a good catch.
Yeah, the best in a month.
How did you manage all this?
On credit, how else? We don't mind extending credit when the catch is good. The only problem is where we find the customers.
His industry is rather depressed. A nice big catch with nobody to buy it doesn't do any good unless you're allowed to pay your bills in fish. And our man here has some pretty hefty bills because he's had to take out multiple loans to keep his business going. That right there is why he's so desperate to keep his business going. Their son is deaf. His mother communicates with him through those hand signals we saw her giving him. Doctors have tried everything they know and nothing has helped. There's a special school for the deaf that they could send him to, if they could afford it, which they clearly can't. Oh, please, no. Fitzhugh is still trying to figure out how to snag that shrimp and drag it back to camp, so he's not watching his back. When the boy reaches out to pick him up, Fitzhugh pokes his finger with that hook and manages to slip away. Meanwhile, our fisherman has a visitor, somebody he's not especially happy to see.
Well, Mr. Eckhart, how's business?
Well, of course, this is the off-season just now, Mr. Digg.
Mr. Eckhart, the bank's concern is the situation right now. Today.
Today? Well, look at it. There's nobody. It's been like this for 5 weeks. What do they expect of me?
Only that you meet the terms of your loan agreement.
And how is he supposed to do that given the conditions he just showed you right in front of your face? But Mr. Durg is not a real human. He's a machine programmed to squeeze blood out of turnips. Never mind that it's never worked because turnips don't have blood. This is how the bank does things, and that's the way it's going to be, by Kobik. And by the way, he's not talking about foreclosing on the business. He's talking about their home. He and his bosses are perfectly willing to leave a deaf child homeless. These financial institutions never learn. I've gone bankrupt twice in my rather jumbled life. We sort of did the second one out of spite, but the first one came about because of a situation like this. We needed a car desperately and decided to invest in a brand new one. I will not do that again because due to a lack of research, we had no idea the silly thing devalued by $5,000 the instant we drove it off the lot. And when the bottom fell out of our business, we couldn't make the payments. One time when I was talking with the banker who handled our loan, I said, if your bank knows that the second I drive the car away it's only worth $12,000, why did they finance it for $17,000? He started babbling some stuff about actuarial thingies and calculated somethings, and he talked long enough that I was able to extract the truth out of him. He doesn't know. I would bet if you talk to anybody in that entire banking operation, nobody would know the answer. These are the people who are running our lives. The boy comes running up all excited, but since his dad hasn't learned his son's language, he has no idea what the message is.
Nothing personal about it. Simply a matter of mathematics.
You mean it's not personal for you? I've never hit anybody with these in my life, but the next time someone says that to me, that could change, especially if it's going to affect my special needs child.
Not now, son. Now, run along, son. I'm busy now.
We won't find out why Mr. Ekorb hasn't learned his son's way of communicating, but I admit it bothers me. It makes me think of Mr. Holland's opus when Mr. Holland couldn't be bothered to learn sign language so he could talk to his son. Why any father would be that way about his child's disability is beyond me. I'm not tooting my own horn here. My goal is to understand someone like him. When we learned we had a daughter with a mental illness, I went to war. My enemies were the state and the local school system because neither one gave a damn. I spent the next 10 years across 3 states fighting anybody and everybody who thought they were going to keep her from getting a decent education and having a good life. I sat in a room full of bureaucrats and others who were deciding her fate, and one of them told me I didn't really have any input. I was on my feet before she finished the sentence. I looked at each of them in turn and said, I appreciate what you're doing for my child, and personally, I like you guys a lot. Do not ever tell me I don't have a say. And they backed down. If you have a child with special needs, you may not realize it, but you're in the same war I was. Your enemies are people like this guy. And the only way you can win is to show no mercy. Unfortunately, Mr. Ekorb isn't as obstreperous as I am. All he can do is sort of whimper that it's only 2 weeks and it's impossible, as if a robot cares. Fitzhugh is back at the ship, reporting to the women about the shrimp. Apparently everybody else is still out foraging.
Well, where's the shrimp? Didn't you get it?
My life was at stake, young lady. Don't you understand that?
Oh, well, Fitzhugh, we understand it, but it's just that you're safe now, and we're still hungry.
This time I have to side with Fitzhugh because one time in his life he told the truth and didn't exaggerate about his encounter with the giant boy. Expecting him to drag the shrimp home under those conditions is a little much.
Well, what are we waiting for? Come on, let's go back.
No, never.
Okay, Fitzhugh. If you don't want to go, we'll go with us.
On the other hand, if there's 2 of them to carry it, Fitzhugh can't stop them. It'd be unreasonable to expect him to, since they're 2 big, strong women and he's just a puny little full-grown man. Though the truth is, if he tried to stop Betty, she could probably throw him halfway across that clearing. They run off, already planning the seafood feast they're going to make.
Food banquet. How long have they been gone?
Long enough to get down to the waterfront.
Stay here with us.
At the waterfront, there's no sign of the shrimp, but the boy is there, playing with his toy boat. He's also playing with this thing.
Come on, let's go.
The running, getting tangled, and all the rest was unnecessary because that lobster couldn't care less about them. There's no telling how long it was in that wooden trap the boy let it out of, so it wants to get back in the water where it can breathe. And even supposing it is hungry, lobsters aren't hunters, they're scavengers. The plain fact is their primary diet is other critters' poop. They don't eat small critters unless the small critters are already dead and decomposing, which you 2 are not.
Steve, what? A giant boy's coming this way. I'm trying to get rid of him. Somehow. We'll hide in the shell.
He manages to get Valerie loose, and they do indeed hide in that shell, which the boy promptly picks up and takes to his dad. Mark and Dan try to distract him, but it'll take them too long to figure out that he can't hear them.
Well, son, you found another shell. You're happy, huh? Wish it were that easy for me. Oh, you want to play our shell game, huh? You think you got your father beat this time, is that it? Well, we'll see about that.
They have an ongoing game of who found the bigger shell. Today the boy won. His name is Dal, by the way, Dal Ekorb. His dad is Talf Ekorb, mom is Osla. Now, before we start getting confused about the oddly alien names, they're not alien, they're descriptive. Talf Ekorb is flat, broke backwards. Osla Ekorb is also broke, and Dal Ekorb is broke lad. I'm gonna say family curse so strong it seeped right into their names.
Well, it's pretty close. But you win.
Talf Eckord tries to be a good husband, father, and provider, but as someone once said, all you can do is all you can do. Larry Ward played Talf, and he seems to have been an occasional favorite of Irwin Allen's. In the second episode of The Time Tunnel, he was Colonel Kane, commander of the Moon Mission. He also played Ohan, the lovable rogue thief who was running from future Colonel Klink in the Lost in Space episode All That Glitters. I talked about him there, so once you finish this episode, check it out. In fact, check them both out. He was a good character actor. Talf and Dal both head up to the house. Once there, he tells Dal, go clean up your shell while I talk with your mother. He has to tell her about the foreclosure and all the rest. He's worried about Dal being able to function in the world as he gets older, and with them facing the possible loss of their house, there's no way they can afford to send him to the special school. But Dal may have just found the solution to their problem. Suddenly, he has his dad's undivided attention.
The government offers rewards for them. They're hostile aliens from another planet.
We're not any more hostile than you are.
You mean your government didn't tell you that part? Gee, I wonder what else they lied to you about.
I've heard they're very clever. Their technology is advanced over ours. They're here to destroy us and take over the planet.
You've heard a lot of propaganda. Now look, we're here by accident. All we want is our freedom to return to our home.
Talf has been watching enough of the giant flim-flam network that he's ready to declare statements like those fake news, even though every accusation against the little people has proven to be a hoax. Dal reports that there are others. He nearly caught one of them, but he can track them into the woods by following tiny footprints, just like the way he caught Fitzhugh. Now we know why Kovic couldn't find the ship. His eyes are too old. There's nobody in the ship. Mark and Dan weren't able to get back to it before Dal found it. Steve radioed to Barry and Fitzhugh, so they hid somewhere while the Giants took the ship. It's up to the four of them to rescue their friends and get the ship back. At least they have a radio so they can coordinate any plan with Steve and the others. Getting the ship may be difficult. The people can slip under that door. The ship can't.
I'll go into town and ask some questions. Now keep the closet door shut until I get back.
Couldn't we just call City Hall and tell them that we have the little people here?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to go about turning them in. Remember, they're treacherous. Keep the closet door shut all the time I'm away.
They want to live in peace, find a way home, and not be government lab rats. Such treachery. But again, this guy is a propaganda channel drone. If they told him his nose was purple, he'd believe it. Still, it's clear his wife isn't so sure. So now that he's gone, let's try to work out something with her.
Mark, do you think you could build a giant hearing aid from the stuff that we have here in the spaceship?
Well, let's say I can. How's that going to get you and the girls out of there?
Well, the girls are going to be part of the deal. It's going to be them for you and Dan.
As usual, he's trying to protect the women. It never occurs to him that maybe they don't want protecting and would rather be full members of the team, and listening to them isn't one of Steve's more prominent talents. Dan persuades Osla to open the closet door. Steve says, I think we can build something that will let your son hear, but here's the deal. First, you exchange the two women for those two guys you were just talking to. Second, if the hearing aid works, we all go free. She says, I can make the exchange if you think you can do something for my son, but I can't guarantee your freedom. My husband will have to decide that. That's good enough for now. Let's get Mark to work on that hearing aid.
This is it. Now, Have the boy place it up to his ear like this. Be very careful because it is delicate. Okay.
Everything is in place, all components and circuits are working properly, so let's give it a try.
Dal, can you hear me?
Answer? No, he can't. It's not working. Mark can't understand why, and Talfa's furious.
Don't you realize they're hostile aliens, enemies? This could have been a powerful weapon. It could have killed Dal.
1, why would they want to do that? 2, it wasn't. And 3, it didn't. So maybe you should stop, clear away some of the government cult propaganda, and think. Once again, it's 1969. We're still mired in Vietnam. We're being told that we're staying out of Laos and Cambodia, even though multiple reports from other countries say that's a lie. The streets are filled with people protesting not just the war, but also the rampant racism in the country. Gee, I'm sure glad we dealt with that. And student protests on campuses all over the country are turning into riots because the authorities decided to use dogs, water cannons, and even actual guns to try and stop it instead of just letting the people march and chant. The country is frankly in chaos, and we just had a major election. Our presidential choices were exactly 2. Vice President Hubert Humphrey, who didn't have any more of a clue what to do about any of it than his boss Lyndon Johnson did, but he was about the only choice left after Bobby Kennedy's murder, and Richard Tricky Dick Nixon. Oh, George Wallace was running as a third-party candidate, but the only people who took him seriously were the hard-nosed racists, like my dad. Humphrey wanted to continue and expand the Paris peace talks about Vietnam and scaled back the American presence there. Johnson had been doing that, and it wasn't accomplishing a whole lot. Scratch that plan. And Nixon, he said, I have a plan for that. What is it? He wouldn't give details. What about the riots and all that? I have a plan for that. What is it? He wouldn't give details. He ran on vague generalizations that had virtually no substance to them, and as we all know, he won. He's only been president for 3 months when this episode airs, and already he's given us even more reasons not to trust what the government was telling us. That's the lesson we're trying to get Taft to learn, and also the lesson we were trying to get major chunks of America to learn.
It should have worked.
Just obviously not enough power for that big ear.
Well, it has to be the acoustical output. The amplifier's not big enough for a giant.
Mark isn't used to his gadgets failing, so I think he's taking this personally, and he has an idea.
A seashell would make a perfect sound amplifier. Not the one you were in, that's too big. One of the smaller ones out on the table.
You guys are forgetting one little thing.
What's that?
The boy's father's not about to give us another chance.
Dan is correct because all their pleas for the boy get brushed aside.
Can't you get it through your head we're trying to help your son?
You're going to. The money from the reward will send him to the school for the deaf, with some left over.
You would make a lot more money on the patent from the hearing aid. And what's more, your son would be able to hear in the bargain.
The idea of more money makes him pause, but in the end he still says no. I guess they'll have to do this without him. They put in a call to Fitzhugh and set up a plan. As usual, Barry and the women will stay behind because even though Fitzhugh is useless, he's the only one left with a full-size ding-dong, and that's a requirement for any Steve Burton plan.
Ralph, we should let them try. If it doesn't work, we still have them.
But how can we trust them? We don't even know what they're up to.
Nobody lives here, see?
Another one. Stay here.
Hey, Giant! Stop!
I guess Valerie decided not to stay behind, especially since the task is just drawing Tauf away so Steve can talk to Osla again.
That noise out there, those are our friends. And they're trying to buy us time so that we can fix that hearing aid.
Now, sooner or later, your husband's going to find them. So this is our very last chance. Would you please help us so that we can help your son?
She's concerned about going behind her husband's back, and Mark says that's not what matters here. What counts is your son. She finally agrees and puts Steve and Mark on the table where Dal is playing with something. Outside, we see Fitzhugh and the others making Talf go in circles trying to find them. Hopefully he won't give up until Mark is done gluing the hearing aid inside one of the shells.
Found another one. Boy.
Needless to say, he's a little ballistic about her defying him again. He says, I don't care what you fixed, you won't be testing it on my son.
Oh, don't be a fool, man. What have you got to lose? I don't know. Not a lot of things. The government says the little people are our enemies. They're here to destroy us.
Dal obviously didn't hear his dad say not to test it on him.
Am I a fool, Ursula?
Oh, Dolph. What have I done?
Why don't you ask Dal what you've done?
Dal? He can hear.
Talf realizes what the little people have done for him, and he's intensely grateful as well as apologetic. And that proves he's not a fool, because you only become a fool the day you stop being teachable. On the other hand, he says he can't let them go.
It's against the law to help you, to not turn you in. I can't break the law.
Dolph, please.
Well, in town, I ask a lot of questions. They'll know I never made the hearing aid. They'll put the two together. They'll know it was the little people. If I let them go free, they'll put me in jail.
Okay, I have to give him that one, and so do Mark and Steve. Back to the ship with them, where Dan and Barry are waiting.
I'm going to talk to your father about the little people.
I have a feeling Dal decided there's been enough talk when he picked up that shell, and he's not in the mood for any more now. There's a time to talk and a time to do, and I think he may be the only member of the family who knows the difference.
Dal?
Steve has figured out what's going on, and he's coordinating with the folks on the ground to help Dal succeed. It's a good thing the giants litter as much as earthlings do.
Oh, no, no, Dal. Let them go. All of them.
The police.
You can tell them the truth. Now, you tried to stop Dal. That's all you can do. They won't blame you because he couldn't understand.
If they do show up, dare them to get in your disabled son's face and accuse him of something. If they do, you can legally rip them a new one. My philosophy, which you are welcome to adopt if you so choose, is only be as big an a-hole as the situation requires. But don't be afraid to be as big an a-hole as the situation requires. If you need any tips, drop me a line.
Maybe you're right. And how are they going to know there's 3 more little people? Thank you, sir.
It happens that way a lot, doesn't it? We have the age-old question here. Do you want to talk to the man in charge or the woman who knows what's going on?
I guess he's put us down.
He put it in a spot not far from where they found it and tried to hide it a little. With the money he got from the hearing aid patent, Talf bought the bank. He transferred Mr. Durg to the Widows and Orphans Department, where his job was to give double hands full of money to people who needed it, no strings attached. Mr. Durg didn't do well in that position. After 2 days, he tried to jump out the window, but since his office was in the basement, he wound up crawling out instead. He finally retired and was never seen or heard from again. Dead and composing? Good grief. Dal reports that there are others. You're
safe now, and we're still hungry.